Every filmmaker wants a reaction. Laughter, tears, anger, relief. Any honest response is better than indifference. So many films these days leave me numb. But Rahul Ravindran's The Girlfriend did the opposite. It provoked me, it bothered me, it made me furious. I literally clenched my fist in the theater, not because the movie was trying to shock for the sake of shock, but because it made me feel something real. After a long drought of forgettable releases, that in itself is worth noting what the film is about. At its core, The Girlfriend is about control. It follows a young woman played by Rashmika whose life is dictated by the men around her. She goes to college to study after fighting her father to be there, but she is immediately reduced to someone's conquest. A boy from college pursues her relentlessly, and a single unwelcome kiss becomes the campus announcement of their relationship. The film examines how patriarchy polishes women's bodies and reputations, celebrating a man's conquest while shaming the women involved. Performances, the engine of the film. Rashmika is the movie's heartbeat. Her performance is quietly devastating. Even in silence, she communicates fear, confusion, grit, and exhaustion. We root for her the entire way. She's a character who carries trauma with a brittle dignity that Rashmika sells beautifully. If I have one complaint about her arc, it's the way the climax handles her emancipation. More on that later, but that does not take away from how compelling she is throughout the film. On the other hand, Dheekshith Shetty as the boyfriend is terrifyingly effective. He's not a mustache-twirling villain in the cartoonish sense, he's ordinary, close to home. That ordinariness is what makes his cruelty sting. I left the theater hating him, the way a movie wants you to hate a character, a testament to a committed, convincing performance. Key scenes that stuck with me. There are a couple of sequences that linger long after the credits. One is the shower room panic attack before the interval. The walls visually close in around Rashmika's character, and the cinematography turns the ordinary space into a metaphor for suffocation. It's simple, clever, and effective. Another is a scene with boyfriend's mother. The silence of that scene is chilling. You feel the atmosphere of fear and complicity. The mother's muted presence and the son's casual endorsement of domestic violence are framed in a way that made my chest tighten. It's one of the moments where the film shows how abuse is passed down and normalized within families. The film also gives us characters who resist easy categorization. There are men who are decent, alert, and helpful, like an English professor and one of the boyfriend's friend. That keeps the film balanced. It indicates toxic masculinity without saying all men are the problem. It points out upbringing, learned behavior, and the social structures that allow this to continue. Writing and direction. Rahul Ravindran's script is sharp about relationships and the small violences that became seismic over time. I liked how the filmmaker used metaphors and images to underline emotional states of suffocation, shame, and entrapment. Sometimes the metaphors are little on the nose, a touch too vocal, but the intentions comes through, and for the most part, the approach works. The movie's pacing keeps you invested. The build toward the climax is steady and tense. The film trusts silence. It allows its leads to carry scenes without an overload of exposition. That willingness to let the actors speak through their body language is one of its strengths. The biggest problem, the climax. This is where the film stumbles for me. Rashmika's character is quiet, simmering, and you are waiting for a release, a moment where she erupts and takes control in a way that lands. When that moment comes, the film checks the right boxes on paper. She makes a stand, she screams, she confronts, but the emotional weight doesn't land as powerfully as it should. The dialogue lacks the volcanic fire I was expecting. It's as if she prepares to detonate and only fizzles. The setup promised a cathartic blowout. The payoff is structurally correct but emotionally undercooked. For a movie that makes you feel so much throughout, the final beat felt a bit muted. Technical notes. A small practical gripe. I watched the Hindi dubbed version because that was what was available in my city. The dubbing quality let the film down in places. Performances lost some nuance and certain lines felt flat. If you get a version in the original language with subtitles, I'd recommend it for the full effect. Final verdict. The Girlfriend isn't a perfect film, but it's an important and effective one. greatest assets are Rashmika and Dheekshith Shetty. Their works makes you invest emotionally even when the script pulls back in the climax. Rahul Ravindran writes with intelligence about relationship, gendered power, and complicity. His metaphors sometimes yell, but they still land. The movie doesn't demonize all men. It shows how upbringing, environment, and silence breed toxic behavior, while also offering a couple of decent male characters who act as a counterpoint. This is a film that will get people talking after they leave the theater over coffee at dinner among friends. That kind of conversation starter is valuable when mainstream cinema so often opts for safety and forgettability. For me, The Girlfriend succeeds because it makes you feel, and that feeling is messy, uncomfortable, and necessary. If you like this review, hit the like button, subscribe for more movie takes, and share this with someone who enjoys a film that pushes back against easy answers. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
I'll be famous, but I don't